Today we are going to discuss exercise questions and answer of the chapter number 1, that is chemical reaction and equation. What is a balanced chemical equation and why should chemical equation be balanced? Now the answer is the chemical equation need to be balanced so that it follow the law of conservation of mass. You know that what is the law of conservation of mass? According to the law of conservation of mass can neither be created nor be destroyed in a chemical reaction. Okay, so this is what the law of conservation of mass. A balanced chemical equation occurs when a number of different atoms of each element, different atoms of each element should be equal on both the side. Product side as well as reactant side should be equal. So that is why it is required to balance a chemical reaction. Now moving to the next question, that is what is mean by exothermic and endothermic reaction. You know very well what does means exo. Whenever the exo comes, like here this exo, an endothermic reaction, what is written, an endothermic reaction occurs when energy is absorbed from the surroundings. So in endothermic, that means the heat is getting in, right? So when heat is getting in, that is therma means temperature, the heat. Okay, so endothermic, when the heat is given to the reaction for to carry out the reaction, that means it is endothermic. And when the heat is given out of the reaction, that is exothermic. So an endothermic reaction occurs when energy is absorbed from the surrounding in the form of heat. For example, in the photosynthesis, you will see the heat is required for photosynthesis in the form of sunlight. Evaporation heat is required in the form of latent heat of vaporization or latent heat of fusion. So similarly, we can say in exothermic reaction, one in which the energy is released from the system into the surrounding. For example, you can see when quicklime is added, quicklime, you know, na, calcium oxide, when added into the water, what will happen? Calcium hydroxide, slaked lime is formed, right? Along with the generation of the heat energy is produced there. So this is one of the example of an exothermic reaction. Now moving to the next question, that is why is respiration considered an exothermic reaction? You know what is respiration considered an exothermic reaction because respiration glucose combined with oxygen and giving out what? Carbon dioxide, water plus energy. Since energy is released, right? Since energy is released, that is why it is an example of exothermic reaction. Okay, why are decomposition reaction called opposite to the combination reaction? See, when you are looking into the combination reaction, in combination reaction, a plus b gives ab, right? And but in decomposition reaction, what is happening? AB gives a plus b. For example, you can see calcium carbonate, decomposition of calcium carbonate, when you give the heat to the calcium carbonate, calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide is formed. Okay, this is decomposition reaction. It's when one reactant gives two or more than two products. Clear? And in combination reaction, two or more reactant gives one product. Okay, now what do you mean by precipitation reaction? Precipitate, a reaction in which an insoluble substance formed, is called precipitate reaction. Precipitate is, what is a precipitate? Precipitate is an insoluble substance. Example, you can see here one example is given. Okay, in the example you will see the sodium carbonate in aqueous solution of sodium carbonate, aqueous solution of calcium carbonate. Here what will happen? Sodium come in the place of calcium, right? And calcium will go in the place of sodium. Then what it is formed? Sodium chloride here sodium chloride in the aqueous form you can see, and calcium carbonate in the solid form. So calcium carbonate in the solid form, that means it is precipitated. White precipitate is formed. White precipitate of calcium carbonate is formed, right? Another example is there, you can see here, uh, sodium sulfate. It is sodium sulfate in the aqueous solution, barium chloride aqueous solution. So barium come in the place of sodium, so it will barium sulfate. It is also having white ppt. And similarly aqueous solution of sodium chloride aqueous solution of sodium chloride will be formed. Okay, so when the precipitation reaction, what is precipitation reaction? Precipitation reaction in which a precipitate is formed. Similarly you can see, why do we apply paint on iron articles? So the answer will be, iron article when exposed for a long time, they react with the atmospheric oxygen and moisture. They react with the atmospheric oxygen and moisture, form iron third oxide. Iron third oxide Fe2O3, right? And it is called rust. But if painted, the surface does not come in the contact of moisture and air, and thus it prevent from the rusting. Now the next question is, why oil and fat containing food items are flushed with nitrogen? See, the main purpose of flushing nitrogen into food packet that contain oil and fat item is to prevent from rancidity. Now what is rancidity? Rancidity when fat or oil react with oxygen. That means oxidation of fat and oils is called rancidity. Rancidity, right? They form the rancid. Rancid means this have bad smell and smell, and taste is also bad taste and bad smell. Clear? So that is why it is required to flush nitrogen, so that what will happen? Therefore by flushing nitrogen, an unreactive surrounding is created, thus preventing from rancidity. Now you can see, what is a chemical reaction? That is a question which is not covered. So chemical reaction involves chemical change in which substance react to form new substance with entirely new property. For example, you can see when hydrogen, which is a gas, right, react with oxygen, which is also a gas. So oxygen support in the burning and hydrogen use as a fuel, but when they react they form water. It will work as a fire extinguisher. So the water is entirely different from the hydrogen and oxygen. So when two reactant or react together, two or more than two reactant react together and form a new compound which have entirely new properties, right? That is called chemical reaction. Now rusting, we are talking about the rusting. So what is rusting? Here it is covered. When an iron articles react with moist and air. Moist means water, air means oxygen, form a brown layer of iron oxide. That is iron oxide, the formula of iron oxide is Fe2O3. So here you can see this process of formation of rust is called rusting. So iron, here is iron and oxygen from here, moisture, water from moisture. X is the number of water molecules. How many water molecules are uh, involved in the reaction is equal to, this is equal to, gives iron oxide plus X. Directly we are taking X, H2O, that is rust. Clear, students? Now moving into the corrosion of copper. Corrosion of copper, similarly what will happen when copper metal exposed for a long time into the air? The moisture, the water, right, and carbon dioxide from air, both they react with the copper metal and forming copper carbonate plus copper hydroxide, that is having the green coated, right? Sometimes you will see the in the vessels at the bottom green coat is there in the copper vessels, right? In the copper vessels green coat is there. Why? Because of the corrosion of copper reacted with water and carbon dioxide and forming copper carbonate plus copper hydroxide. Copper hydroxide is having the green coating. Okay, now moving ahead, corrosion of silver. Sometimes you might have seen silver rings, you might have wear silver rings also. You might have seen when silver metal exposed for a long time into the air, it react with hydrogen sulfide gas from air and forming Ag2S. Ag2S is what? Ag2S is black color substance, black color solid substance, right? Which is black in color. So you might have seen on the ring, silver ring, the black color coating is appear after long time. Okay, and also release hydrogen gas. So this is what the corrosion of silver. Now again we are going to this topic. Rancidity, it refers to the oxygen of fat and oil in food that is kept for a long time. It gives foul smell and bad taste. Smell and taste both are bad. Rancid food causes stomach infection and consumption. See, this point has to be remembered. Stomach infection and consumption. How we can prevent? Use of airtight container, packaging with nitrogen, refrigerator, fridge में भी रख सकते हैं, addition of antioxidant or preservative. So by these four ways we can prevent rancidity. We can prevent rancidity. Clear, students? Now moving ahead. One question we have not covered. A shiny brown colored element on heating in the air becomes black in color. Name the X element. See, brown color, shiny brown color is only what is the metal? Metal name is copper, right? When heated in air, that means that react with oxygen, right? When heated in air, copper heated with air, it gives copper oxide, that is black in color. What is happening? What is happening? It is oxidation of copper. Clear, students? Now, the last question. In the refining of silver, the recovery of silver from silver nitrate solution involved displacement reaction by copper metal. Write down the reaction. Now, already it is said silver from silver nitrate. Refining of silver, the recovery of silver from silver nitrate solution involved displacement by copper. So copper is displacing. Here you can see the copper is used. The copper is used to displace copper silver nitrate aqueous solution. So copper is being more reactive, displaces silver and forming copper nitrate, right? And silver is free. So this is what copper is displacing the silver. That is why it is a displacement reaction. I hope you enjoy this video, right? Any doubt you further, you can comment your questions. I will write your answers. Thank you. Enjoy your day.